Hey guys, it is Joe and Chris here with the Good Old Gamer, and today we are doing our viewer segment. A while back when we did our 1,000 subscriber video. By the way, thank you for everybody who's currently subscribed. We asked for your thoughts or questions, anything you might have that you might want us to do a topic on, so we could, in a way, thank somebody personally within the community that's viewed our videos. And we have Brandon here with us today who posed a certain question, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But what today is just our way of fulfilling that promise, and we want to let you know that we are listening. So if anybody ever has any questions that they want us to talk about, you can put that in any video, any comment, and we'll take a look at it. And that way, we'll have something in the future because we do want to connect with you guys. So here's what we have today, and we have Brandon. And Brandon, why don't you go ahead and ask us your question?
All right. So my question was, will Zen shake up the market like the RX 480 has? And will Zen be competitively priced like the RX 480?
And that is a great question because we have talked extensively now, I think, in just about every video we've been mentioning AMD one way or another and how their new RX 480 and before it came out we talked about how it could affect the market and everything, and now we're talking about how in the videos since it's been out the effect it should be having on the market and whatnot, especially with Vega in the pipeline and the new 1060 dropping, and RX is directly related to all of that, the RX 480, because we're telling people, we're thinking you should wait, or maybe wait for Vega, or maybe not go for the 1060, just be happy with the RX 480 because it's a lower price. But that's all stuff you can find in other videos. So for now, we're going to answer that question. And Chris, seeing as how you are our tech guru, why don't you tell us a little bit about Zen before we break down whether or not it's actually going to shake up the market the way we think?
Well, actually, I'm just going to start straight into it. I think Zen is going to shake up the market. I think
Fair
that's
enough.
the whole point of Zen. Right now, we've been conditioned by Intel that every year a new CPU will come out. It'll be anywhere between 4 and 10%, better than what was currently out. Prices have steadily gone up very slowly. They're not Nvidia; they don't shoot up $100 to $200 a year, but $20 here, $30 there, and they've just kind of been cruising. They've been on cruise control. They've been dropping process nodes. They've been shrinking their processors. They haven't been getting a lot faster, and Intel's been making a lot of money, and good for them. They own the market. Now we really need Zen. We need Zen as consumers to come out and be exactly what AMD is promising. They're promising about a 40% IPC improvement over the Excavator core, which Oz from Oz Talks Hardware has done extensive research on this, and I'll put links to his videos below. But assuming that he is correct, this will put Zen somewheres around Haswell's performance level, either a little bit higher or a little bit lower. Now, Joe, when I first told you that, you kind of were like, "Who cares about Haswell? We're a couple generations past that." And true, it's not going to be more powerful than what Intel currently has, but instead, this is going to force AMD to be more price competitive, and they're going to go straight after Intel's mainstream processor. Now, at Computex, AMD put up the 8-core 16-thread CPU as their go-to desktop gaming CPU. What that means to me is that's probably going to go straight after Intel's 4-core, 8-thread processors between the $300 and $400 mark. Now, that being at Haswell performance level, that is literally 5960X processors being sold for $300 to $400, somewhere in that target range. To me, that's a big freaking deal. We're talking about taking Intel's top tier processors and just slamming them straight into the ground. And I think that is fantastic for consumers. Once again, this is all speculation, but this is really the kind of move that AMD has been doing. This is exactly what they did with the RX 480. They took GTX 970 performance and slammed it in at 199, and this forced Intel, and I guarantee you they were going to do the Founders Edition across the board on the GTX 1060, but they thought the better of it because of all the stuff we put in our video. Not because of us, but I'm pretty sure they thought of all that stuff too, and that's probably why they scrapped that idea, or hopefully they did. We'll find out in a couple of weeks. But Intel kind of needs the same thing. They need prices brought back down to earth. They just announced, what was it, like a $2,000 or $3,000 enthusiast grade processor. We're not even talking about professional grade or server grade processor. They're talking about something that somebody at home is going to probably buy. That's just insane. So I really think, and I really hope, and as a consumer, we really need this to hit the performance targets and price targets, and I think that would be great.
Okay, so now that we've kind of answered the question, at least from Chris's point of view, and I'm sure there's plenty more to talk about, and we'll get to that. I do want to ask Brandon, why did you ask this question? What about it is specific to you? Is this something near and dear to your heart? Are you an AMD fan? Are you currently waiting to upgrade and trying to figure out the best avenue? Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, about your setup and maybe why that question was important to you?
Well, when I first built my first PC, I had AMD. I had a FX 8320E
Okay.
and a GTX 680 in it. I then upgraded. I guess you can call it an upgrade. I don't really feel like it's an upgrade, but I got the i5 4690K,
Okay.
and now I have a GTX 1070, but I had a 970 right before that.
Okay.
And
And why was the question important to you?
for the Zen more so because I want another CPU because I liked the multi-thread. Well, I guess when I had multiple applications open and I was gaming as well, I didn't really see a frame drop with the AMD processor. However, when I went with the i5, like my CPU is always like 100%. If I open like Chrome, I have a game and then I'm having like music playing in the background as well.
Hmm.
Like it'll be 90 to 100% and I'll drop some frames in games.
So for you, multitasking is very important.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would say that Zen's actually right up your alley, especially if they're going to be doing an 8-core, 16-thread CPU, which they said that they are. So I think that would give you fantastic room to grow on that front. So you can go ahead and do multiple things. Probably run multiple monitors, especially with a 1070. That wouldn't be a problem. And then you could multitask your heart out. So yeah, I think Zen would be a very good fit, assuming AMD delivers on what they said.
And there you go. As far as that's concerned, I'm glad we, have a little bit of information there to go off of, and obviously we have more to talk about with AMD. So I just kind of want to give my perspective a little bit here, as kind of a mainstream guy who doesn't have Chris's technical aptitude towards the tech involved in gaming, and who's really just the type of guy that just wants things to work. I can identify a lot with you, Brandon, because what you're saying is you had something that worked in a way that pleased you. The fact that you could switch and the multitasking, and you didn't see any frame rate drops, and you went to your i5, and you kind of feel like maybe that wasn't quite the upgrade it should have been. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can totally identify with that, and that's exactly why we need parity in our gaming world. Because right now, you have Nvidia on one end that is totally dominating the GPU market, and you have Intel totally dominating the processor market. And as a result, you end up thinking you're going to go with the best processor, and it isn't quite the upgrade you thought. Now, on top of that, let's look at the fact that, and this is something Chris could explain in greater detail than I, but I'm going to talk about it in a way that makes sense, I think, to a mainstream gamer. Every year, Intel puts out a new processor. And this new processor is typically between 5 and 10% better, usually under 10% better than the previous generation. And we, as the general gaming community, if you were a PC gamer, probably have drank that Kool-Aid every year, thinking, oh, that's the new processor, that's the way to go. And maybe you don't upgrade every year, but maybe you upgrade every 2 years. Maybe you'll upgrade every 3 or 4, and if you do, good on you, because you haven't wasted your money. But for people that upgrade every year to two, you're not getting quite the benefit. And I know AMD doesn't put out a new processor quite every year. At least the way their generations have gone, it hasn't been quite as rapid as Intel. But what we're talking about is the fact that Chris mentioned something earlier, and that the fact is that these new Zen CPUs have an architecture that is supposed to be 40%, if not faster. I think the latest, one of the later articles I've read indicated it should be even better than that in terms of 40% or better improvement for instructions per clock. That is a gigantic improvement because this isn't a 4 year gap in generations. This is what, 2 years, Chris?
What, between the old pile driver core? We're talking about 6 to 7 years. This has been a long time in development.
Yeah, but
So
in terms of over their latest, what they currently have with their pile driver architectures and the instructions per clock, you're talking about their latest processors 40% greater. So it's not
yes,
it's not that they haven't improved on their chips. They have improved on their chips, but you're talking about completely new architecture that jumps up 40%.
well, yeah, you're talking about excavators about 15 to 20% better than the
Pile
original
drivers.
pile driver.
Right.
Steamroller was about 10%
And
faster, and then
excavator was what? Only 3 years ago, 2 years ago?
no excavators. I think came out about a year ago. Maybe
Okay.
was the first ship.
And
Somewhere
now we're
around there.
talking about Zen, that's a year later, jumping 40% even better than Excavator. So I guess my point here is that it looks like AMD is actually going to be able to deliver a great value proposition over previous cores that Intel typically can't offer. Well, not typically, just flat hasn't offered. Like I said, 5 to 10% per year. Excavator came out a year or so ago, and now we're talking about getting, I don't know, upwards 40 to 50% better over what's already there in terms of instructions per clock. On top of that, it's going to be 8 cores, 16 thread. I mean, that's pretty incredible in my mind. And that's the kind of business I want to support, and you should want to support as a mainstream gamer, because really what we're talking about is value for your money. Because right now you can get, I mean, Chris, the new processors that came out, the Broadwell refresh, the ones that like 10 core, 20 threads, right? Those
Yeah,
are
Broadwell E.
yeah, the Broadwell E's. Those are $1,000 or $2,000 for the best version of that. And what's that?
It's 2 or 3,000. I can't remember.
Yeah, and that's just an insanity right off the bat. I mean, flat insanity. I don't care if you are still rocking your X99 platform. That's an insane amount of money to spend for 10 cores and 20 threads. But it looks like if you can wait till roughly October when these new processors are supposed to be out, you can probably get away, and this is all speculation, we don't know price, but based on history and trends, you can probably expect these processors to drop anywhere from $300 for, and what we're talking about is getting roughly Haswell E performance, which is only 10% less than Skylake, if that.
Approximately 10%.
Okay, so you're getting 10% less than Skylake, more threads, more cores. You're going to end up a lot better. And all you have to do is just wait. So that's my take on it as a mainstream gamer. And I would recommend to Brandon here or anybody else out there, wait. Because it looks like right now AMD is finally finding a way to catch up on NVIDIA and Intel. And I've said this plenty about NVIDIA, but I'm saying it now about Intel. Give AMD time to get these processors out. Because if you want to affect the market, number one, you have to vote with your wallet. This whole idea that we always just buy the best thing that gets shoved in our face, and usually it's an NVIDIA or an Intel product, that kind of stuff has to stop. The point is that we have been told to accept this business model, and it's not fair to the consumer. We haven't had other choices. We will finally start having choices come October. And again, we're talking less than 10% improvement, roughly, less than Skylake, but you're going to get more cores and more threads, which is important because with Vulkan and DX12 on the horizon, I mean, I know DX12 is already out and Vulkan just hit Doom recently, which I think, Chris, you can talk about. We have these games coming out that are really going to be able to take advantage of the cores and threads that AMD Zen processors are going to be delivering to us for what should be a pretty reasonable cost compared to what Intel has. So please wait. Please vote with your wallet here. Give AMD a chance, because it sounds like the only way we're going to get to a point where we are not being taken advantage of in this community as gamers is to just wait. So I know I've kind of rambled on here. I apologize. Chris, do you have anything to add here?
I was gonna say now that Joe, as a layman, just a normal guy, just a normal guy.
You know, layman sounds so negative. You elitist prick.
Anyways, I mean, but that's good. I mean, you really are. You're the guy. You call me up every time you buy a computer part. You don't even make your own decisions 100% on that, which, you know, you're the normal PC gamer. You know, you rely on information that you find elsewhere. And you're this excited. And that's actually really good for me to see. And I hope other people are just as excited about this processor. Zen, like I said before, will hopefully shake up the market. Me being primarily just a PC gamer, I mean, as long as my computer can game, it can do everything else that I need it to do. I don't really care about any other features in that particular aspect. But from a gaming perspective, between DirectX 12 and Vulkan being multi-threaded by nature, both consoles also supporting 8-core CPUs currently and in the future. This means 8-core CPUs are literally going to become the standard. If you guys watched our recent video with the Core i7 875K paired with the GTX 1070, you will notice a 2013 game called Crisis 3 runs so much better on a Core i7 versus a Core i5. Those extra 4 threads on the i7 delivered significant performance increases. We're talking about a game that not only runs on DirectX 11, which means it had to be specifically programmed to utilize extra cores, it was also released in 2013. So this means going forward, 4 cores and 4 threads are not enough. As Brandon has actually demonstrated, his i5 cannot run a game and do anything else because all 4 cores are being taxed completely. There's no extra performance on that processor. So 8 cores is pretty much becoming the standard. And I would say probably by next year, if you don't have at least an 8-thread CPU, you're not going to be gaming anymore. So AMD is going to be bringing out an actual 8-core processor for the masses, just like the RX 480. Now, the other exciting prospect is we're just thinking about the 8-core 16-thread between $300 to $400. Who's to say that there's not going to be a 4-core 8-thread CPU roughly equivalent to a 4790K launched around $200? To me, that's a fantastic value proposition, and that should be very viable for gaming for the near future. So a $200 graphics card price point's already been hammered. I bet you they're going to go after the same thing with the processor. $400, boom, that's the majority of your system, and you're up and running. And I think that's their strategy. They're going to go for value and longevity, whereas Intel and AMD or Nvidia are going to be going for maximum power, most performance, but they're also going to be going for maximum price. And we all know that Nvidia graphics cards don't last as long. They just don't have the same legs as AMD cards. Through drivers and whatnot, AMD supports their graphics cards much longer. And Intel processors, I don't know what they're going to do. They haven't had competition in 8 to 10 years. So I don't know. Maybe they'll drop the prices of their processors, which is great because then you can upgrade your current Intel platforms for cheaper, or they'll just come out with better processors, which great. Now you have better processors. So there's no loss here. I mean, it's win-win for everybody besides Nvidia and Intel. And I say screw them. They got enough of our money. Let's go and reap the benefits. And I say support AMD for keeping things in check if they can. Remember, this is all speculation. This hasn't actually happened yet. This is literally what they need to do. We are telling them what they have to do to be competitive and to actually be relevant in this market. Now, if they don't hit any of these performance targets, and if they don't hit these price points, then they're going to fail. And it's just that simple.
Okay. And now, Brandon, I know we've kind of talked at length, and I apologize if we haven't gotten to you enough. Do you have any questions or comments? Anything we could answer for you?
No, you guys pretty much covered it all. More so, like I guess with DX12, kind of said that they'll actually use the multi cores in it. So, I mean, that looks promising.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
actually, I was watching something yesterday that it's going to scale across tons of cores and tons of threads. It all comes down to the individual developers if they want to take advantage of that, of course. DX12 is all, and Vulkan, or it's all about the developers. They can program it to run however they want, but literally if they want it to run properly or run best on 16 threads, they can do that. And same thing's going to go for GPU scaling, which is pretty awesome. So if they want 2 GPUs to be, what runs the game the best, they can program it that way. So more hardware and more cores and just more stuff crammed in your computer is going to make things faster, which is exciting because you can buy less expensive stuff and upgrade later, and it will all work together. And so we're going into some very exciting times. And if prices get more competitive, which they seem to be, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that too. Like you said, it's a very exciting time, and I don't want to take up too much more time talking about it. But I do want to say this: this is probably one of the most exciting times we've had in a very long time, because right now we finally got some competition in both of the major markets in PC gaming, your GPU and your CPU, and it's about to change the lanes. It's about to change the landscaping of this entire community. Because ultimately, right now, you probably have a good 70 to 80% of everybody uses Intel, and probably even greater than that using NVIDIA. And that's sad, because it needs to be better, because the consumer suffers when there's that kind of gap in terms of market share between the top.
Well, let's place blame where it is. AMD does not currently have a competitive CPU at all, and their GPUs aren't bad. They're just very power hungry, and just from an efficiency standpoint and price to performance, it's just not quite there. So it's their fault.
And that maybe that's all true. I mean, I'm not arguing that. My bottom line is it doesn't matter where the blame goes. The problem is the situation sucks for consumers, and we're about to enter an area and a time where the situation as a consumer is going to get markedly better. And I think we're all going to benefit. But number one, we need patience and we need time. So please, again, I will implore everybody to wait and see what AMD can produce before you make any big decisions this year on any gaming equipment that you need, like peripherals or whatever for your PC. And I hope that you take from this that there's some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. And I think we're all pretty excited. I know Chris and I are, and I'm pretty sure Brandon is. And that's why he asked the question, because this is near and dear to his heart. So hopefully you're excited as we are, but hopefully you can keep it together just a little bit longer. Chris, anything else?
Brandon, you got anything else, buddy?
No.
You want to give a shout out? Anybody? Mom, dad, friends, family, dog, cat, wife, illegitimate children?
No, shout out to you guys for picking me up, picking my topic. Really, thanks for that. I guess shout out to Gaming Illuminati.
Well, thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to us. If you like what we're doing here, please like the video. If you enjoy our channel, feel free to subscribe. If you don't like it, feel free to leave any comments. If you do like, you can leave comments as well. In fact, we appreciate those just a little more. But overall, we want to say thank everybody for taking the time to watch. And for me, you have a good night.
I want to thank you, Brandon. I mean, it's a great topic. It just happened to be on my mind, and it just happened to come out, the timing was great with the video that I just put out. So I want to thank you for listening to us and supporting us. And I hope, we can continue to deliver content for you and for everybody else. And to everybody else out there, I hope you have a good night. Hopefully AMD can pull out the W in 2017.
All right, guys, there it is. See you in the next video.